Well, let's stay with Reconciliation Day, what it means and how it can be achieved. Let's speak now to the ANC's Head of Policy and Research, Fébé Potgieter-Gqubule. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
And thank you very much for joining us in studio. This day is aimed at social cohesion, promoting social cohesion, healing, and nation building. But what does all this mean in a country where poverty, unemployment, and inequality remains rooted in that very apartheid past that the president refers to today?
Well, I think that part of the purpose of a day like Reconciliation Day is to exactly come to terms with what that past means, but also what it means for the present and the future. So if you look at the history of Reconciliation Day, the Battle of Blood River on the one hand, so something that the Afrikaners feel very proud of. On the other hand, it was the launch of the armed struggle. And in a sense, those two events and the decision to have it termed Reconciliation Day in 1994 is an acknowledgement that we can't just look ahead. We also need to understand where we come from and how that informs our presence. And I think that 30 years later, we've come a long way, but I think we still have a long way to go in terms of changing attitudes, in terms of the material basis of apartheid colonialism, as well as patriarchy.
Yeah. We talk about this day also being significant for the fight against apartheid, because it was on this day, back in 1961, when Umkhonto weSizwe formally went underground to fight the armed struggle that you refer to.
That's correct.
But before we get there, we're going to get to the politics of the day. Today in South Africa, children are dying of foodborne illnesses.
Yeah.
People are buying from spaza shops, even though there isn't conclusive evidence yet put forward to say X spaza shop was directly responsible. But there is this chemical that has been found. You then move from that to people who are underground as we speak.
Yeah.
They are illegally mining underground because they are trying to eke out a living. And it's not just foreign nationals, South Africans are part of them too.
That's right.
How then do we reconcile that person who is struggling to just put bread on the table? How do they celebrate a day like this?
I think that at the end of the day, reconciliation is about social justice, as the president said. It's not just only about, I think it was Comrade Mandela that said that reconciliation is not about forgetting about the past or burying the past. Reconciliation is about working together to address the social injustices of the past. And I think that for the miner underground, the children that you refer to, it is about all of us working together to address the root causes of those issues. I think that with regards to the foodborne deaths and poisoning that we've seen, what we need to do is to, as a country, based on evidence, say that environmental health, is it still best located at local government level, or is it something that should become a national competency or something that's done jointly with national and local government? So in a sense, address the root causes of those issues. How do you make sure that you have proper checks and balances in place? The question about the Zama-Zamas is a little bit more complicated, because I think that there are two interlinked factors. The first one is that the mining is taking place illegally. So what do we do about it? Do we then have a system where we say that we need to have a system of, say, artisanal mining, like they have in other countries where you allow small-scale miners to mine, but it has to be legal. You can't have people underground. You know, this group that was found in Mpumalanga where 3-4 people ran away and they said they were forced to work under false pretext. So you need to make sure that that is regulated. So the one problem is, what do we do with mines that have been abandoned by larger companies but still have some form of resources, and how do we allow for some form of legal approach towards the matter? And then, of course, there's the matter of undocumented migrants.
Yeah.
Which is a huge problem. I think that it's not just a South African problem. I think it's an issue that we need to address with our neighbours, Mozambique, Zimbabwe in particular, but also part of the reason why we get involved in peace missions across the continent. Because, you know, people from Sudan may not have reached yet, but if the civil war continues much longer, they're going to reach here. So we need to do both looking at what are the domestic resolution to the problem, but we also need to have a regional and continental approach towards the issue of migration.
It's easy to lose focus for a person who follows these events quite intently. It's easy to lose focus and ask you the question, how long must it take for the government of the day? Because in Zimbabwe, the very reason you have millions of Zimbabweans in South Africa today is partly because of the quiet diplomacy applied by the former president, Thabo Mbeki. But we're not going to do
we'll
that.
Discuss
we're digressing.
We're
digressing
on a different
now.
Occasion,
So let's stick to the problems of the
Reconciliation
day.
Day, yeah.
We are 30 years into democracy.
That's correct.
And Dr. Ruel Khoza, in a recent book he released, co-authored with others, says, how is it possible that 30 years on, there are more white millionaires in South Africa than there are black millionaires? Again, it talks to the socio-economic realities of our country that are still rooted in our apartheid past. Has there been a failure somewhere?
Well, I think that's the, on the one level, we've had a political transition. We've got a good constitution. We have very strong institutions, even despite the battering that a lot of our institutions have gotten, they're beginning to recover. In addition to that, I think that South Africa have made progress in the social wage, you know, access to basic services, even though there are challenges with that now. But I think that our economic transformation has been less than optimal, to put it mild.
It's failed. It has failed.
Well, I think that the I mean, I can't remember who was it, a businessman that said that failure is acceptable unless it's catastrophic. And I think that we've reached the point where our economic transformation shortcomings has become catastrophic. It's reflected in the poverty, in the extreme level of unemployment. So I think that, and this is why the president spoke about the national dialogue, because we have to have a conversation about what we're going to do about the economy. And as you correctly pointed out, we have more white millionaires than we had before 1994. There was this recent Oxford study that just looked at wills and estates and showed that even with regards to intergenerational wealth, we haven't made a lot of progress. So, I mean, as they said during the Clinton presidency, it's the economy, stupid. And I think that at the end of the day, what the next 5 years, 10 years, 30 years have to be about is about the economy.
Yeah. Let's talk the TRC process, because that was one of the key drivers of the country coming together and fostered by Madiba. He's no longer with us. How far have we gone? And the Arch. And the Arch, yeah. Both of them. Where are we as far as that, and do we think that we've made enough progress in that regard?
No, I don't think we've made enough progress by far. I think it's a sense of there are areas where we've made progress, and then there's areas where, you know, I think we're often shocked about how little progress we've made. Take the debate around Bella. So years ago, for the first time in, I think 1997, we enacted the South African Schools Act. You have a major review of your basic education system. And then there's an issue around something which the court has says to government, you need to have clarity about this question, about the relationship between the HOD's powers and that of SGBs with regards to language and admission policies. Because, I mean, does it happen every 2 years?
Yeah.
Every year there's an incident where a black child invariably are being denied access to school because of language policies. Now, you'd expect that that's sort of like, you know, it's an obvious thing. You shouldn't discriminate.
Yeah.
But you have thousands of Afrikaner communities marching on skole vir ons kinders. And you're thinking like, wow, 30 years later. So I think that the question about reconciliation and what the TRC has done, I think that a day like today provides us with the opportunity to reflect on that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the assumption of reconciliation is that there are two parties that admit that things have gone wrong, and whether it's victim and perpetrator, but to then say we take responsibility jointly. And often the impression is created that, you know, black people are forgiven. And that's where it ended.
I'm fast running out of time. You talk about the Bella Act. Would it be, and I'm asking this question, by the way, cognizant of the fact that the ANC says, let's separate party and state. The president has placed on pause clauses 4 and 5. If he amends, as is being demanded by the DA and others, will that be a betrayal?
Well, I think it would be unfortunate, and the ANC's position to the president and constitutional structures has been that the president should sign the Bella Act as is. Well, he signed the Bella Act, but proclaim it so that all of the different clauses are being implemented. We've been part of a process of discussion in the 3-month period that he set with the Afrikaner organizations. And I mean, the issues that they raise are important, but it's one part of the story, and it's a position of privilege.
I want to end this conversation with the new entrants into the political space. And the latest is the MK party. It is run by a former president of the ANC.
That's correct.
And it is run on the basis that this is a party of black people. We are going to engage fellow parties that are run by black people. Do you worry that there is what Dr. Imran Bakas talks about, which is, do you fear that there is a rise of authoritarian populism that is run by these political parties? And is that a threat to our democracy as we know it?
I think that we should all be worried about it, because it's a global trend that, you know, the move towards populism, and in a sense, a form of ethno-nationalism like we see with the MK party, where it appeals to people's sense of belonging to a particular ethnic group. So I think that we should be worried about it, because in a sense it flies in the face of the founders of the ANC that says we need to bury the demon of tribalism and we need to come together and address our problems as a people, irrespective of tribe, religion, race, or gender. So I think that we should be worried about it, but I think that at the same time, part of the challenge is also that as South Africans, we must ask ourselves the questions, retreating into narrow ethno-nationalist parties, is that going to assist us with resolving our problems? Because even in KwaZulu-Natal, it's not just Zulu-speaking people that live there.
Yeah.
It's a variety of different peoples.
Well, not to be accused of singling out the MK party, you have the Patriotic Alliance that is very clear that
That's
we are
correct.
for colored people who feel disenfranchised or neglected by the government of the day. Fébé Potgieter-Gqubule, let me thank you very much for your time. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Happy to have you here in studio. Please come back next time. There's so much to talk about.
Yes.
The ANC's head of research